Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, I am showing you the best deck in Japan, and I am back to tell you I was right. I know I boast a little bit here and there, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sorry, but when Rayquaza GX was revealed, I went over the top. I told you this was one of the best new GXs we'd had in ages. I told you I expected this to immediately become the best deck in the format, and I have made no secret of the fact that if I was competing at Worlds, I would not be considering anything other than Rayquaza GX. And Takuya Yaneda has just gone and won the Japanese National Championships with Rayquaza GX. Not only that, but a lot of people have been saying, Ross, Rayquaza, its most natural partner is Vikavolt. You should play it with Vikavolt. And my response to that has been, no, it's too awkward. You should be playing a Rayquaza list, which is purely focused on speed, using stuff like Max Elixir. And that's what happened. One last little boasty bit, and I promise you I will then say something I got massively wrong. I said that Tapu Koko was an absolute no-brainer one-of inclusion for the GX attack because Rayquaza's GX attack isn't that good, whereas Tapu Koko's is brilliant. All of that came about in your winning list in Japan. Now, I did say that you should be played with stuff like B-String or some cheeky extra energy attachment. Clearly, Japan decided, no, Ross, that's too awkward, shut up. But, essentially, this video is a bit of a PSA. This is the best deck in the format. Rayquaza is amazing, and I know that Japan's national championship was full of stuff like Buzzwole and Malamar decks that couldn't keep up, ladies and gentlemen. Also, in the senior division, it was won by Rayquaza, and in the junior division, it was won by Rayquaza. Rayquaza just won all three age divisions. Now, there's basically two new cars in this list. Everything else is stuff with which you should be familiar. Initially here in our translations do come from the lovely David Hockman over at limitlesstcg.com/translations. Rayquaza is a fairly ridiculous card, which has a lovely ability. When you play it down onto the bench, you may discard the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you can attach a basic energy to this Pokemon. And the main attack, Grass, Lightning, Colorless, 30 damage for each basic Grass and Lightning attached to your Pokemon in play. And then 1 Grass energy, discard your hand, draw 10 cards. That's very much an emergency GX attack like Drampa GX's. It is a ridiculous card that accelerates energy, and the attack here is nuts. You get 7 or 8 energy on the field, you're one hit KOing anything, and when Rayquaza goes down, you only lose 3 energy. You don't lose any more than that. So you've still got a hard-hitting Rayquaza ready to come out. Now, the other new card here is my lovely infant daughter's spirit Pokemon, Latias Prism Star, and Latias Prism Star again is phenomenal, because for 1 colorless energy, 30 damage, and attach 1 basic energy from your discard pile to each of your benched basic dragon Pokemon. And the way this deck works generally is very, very simple. You get Latias Prism Star in the active as soon as possible, you accelerate energy using Latias Prism Star, and then you use Rayquaza's ability. Do bear in mind it's a blind discard, so it could come back to hurt you. And Max Elixir to accelerate as much energy as you can, and then you one-hit KO everything as quickly as you possibly can. Yeah, it's really quite crazy good. Now, I mentioned Tapu Koko earlier. Tapu Koko's here for the GX attack. And the GX attack here does 50 damage times the amount of energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. You can imagine how good this is in the mirror match. And it's got the ability where you can bench it and move as much lightning energy to it as you like, and then put it straight into the active. I don't think Tapu Koko's a great Pokemon, But I do think it's got a great GX attack, and then you get it back onto the bench and it sits there with free energy on, meaning your Rayquaza do an extra 90 damage. It is a wonderful, wonderful tech, and of course there are going to be some games where you play against stuff like Ho-Oh that is weak to lightning, and in that situation it becomes a really good attacker. Otherwise, this deck really does write itself. And it's not like I was some kind of Pokemon savant looking here going, well, just Rayquaza and Latias Prism Star. That's an obvious combination. But this looked on paper. As soon as I saw Rayquaza GX, my response was, that's going to be one of, if not the best deck in the format. And it's proven to be. All 3 age divisions. And that pretty much is the deck. Now, the other cool thing that was played by Yaneda here was fighting Fury Belt, just giving a little bit of extra bulk. And obviously, you're vulnerable to Field Blower, and that's a bit of a problem. But it doesn't really matter. You've still got that extra bulk. Means you can do an extra 10 damage, means you get an extra 40 HP. That extra 10 is actually really big, because stuff like Buzzwole and Ultra Necrozma all have 190, and if you've got 6 energy in play, you're doing 180, you need to do an extra 10 damage. In comes Fighting Fury Belt. Now, before we quickly run through the last few cards of the list, obviously, Japan are currently playing X and Y onwards, so their format is a little bit different. Just so we're entirely clear, that's not going to matter. Rayquaza is going to wreck at the World Championships. I expect it to be the best deck at Worlds, and honestly, I would bet it's going to win, except I don't bet because betting is wrong. So in terms of other Pokemon, very quickly, we've got Tapu Lele. Tapu Lele's Wonder Tag searches out your supporters. We see 1 copy of Sudowoodo. It limits your opponent down to a bench of 4. Quite good for Malamar decks that need their bench, but Zoroark still sees play, and they've still got Skyfield in their format, so you kind of need to stop Zoroark. Zoroark and Skyfield is crazy good. 1 copy of Oricorio here, because it's a nice counter against Night March, and Night March was at the Japan World Championships. I told you how the lovely Antoine Boulet made top 64 and got his World invite, unfortunately lost to a Night March. Night March is still good. And 1 copy of Shaymin, because Shaymin draws cards. This is a speed deck, a fast, aggressive deck. So you know what? You kinda need to have speed, and Shaymin gives you that speed. In terms of energy, 7 grass, 7 lightning. You don't particularly need one over the other, but you do need 14 basic energy, because stuff like Max Elixir is going to demand that you play a whole bunch of basic energy in order that you hit it. In terms of Pokemon search, and trainers in general, but Pokemon search first, 3 Ultra Ball, 4 Mysterious Treasure. There are 2 great things these do. Firstly, they search out your Pokemon, and Mysterious Treasure, okay, it won't get every card in your deck, but it gets Tapu Lele, Latias, and Rayquaza. They're the main ones, ladies and gentlemen. And they both discard energy, which you really need in order to accelerate it, using Latias Prism Star. We see 4 Versus Seeker, because it lets you reuse supporters. It's legal in Japan, why would you not use it? We see 3 copies of Floatstone to get Pokemon out of the active, whether that's Latias Prism Star when you've accelerated enough energy, or Tapu Koko after you've used your GX attack here. We do see 2 copies of Rescue Stretcher, because sometimes you need to recover your Pokemon. Rescue Stretcher's a good way to do so. And we see 2 copies of Parallel City. It basically does what Sudowoodo does. It limits your opponent's bench, and there's a lot of decks at the moment, especially in a format with Skyfield, that want a lot of Pokemon on their bench. We see 4 Professor Sycamore. Again, this is a speed deck, and you want to discard energy for Latias. Professor Sycamore works nicely. We see 1 copy of N. Now remember, they're playing Versus Seeker, so 1 copy of N can be many more. And 1 copy of Cynthia, just for other options. Cynthia, if you really don't want to discard with Sycamore, and N to kind of slow your opponent down if they take a bit of a lead. We then see 3 copies of Guzma. It's a gusting effect, you need gusting effects. And 1 copy of Hex Maniac to turn off stuff like Tapu Lele, like Shaymin, like Malamar. If you're against a Malamar deck, you can use Hex Maniac, chain it with Versus Seeker, and make sure they don't have abilities for the entire game. I, for one, am delighted to see Rayquaza doing so well, because honestly, I thought it was that good. It's just nice to see that it is that good, and that I'm not quite becoming that much of an idiot just yet. But consider yourselves on notice, ladies and gentlemen. Rayquaza is coming. It is the best deck in the format, and it is going to rock the World Championships. Consider yourself warned. And tell me what you think about Rayquaza in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do just that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.